Welcome to the second day of this incredible Webit 2019. Are you still sleeping or are you awake?
Thanks.
You are awake! Merci! So great to be in Bulgaria. What an incredible country. I met the president yesterday, and I said to the president, how do you order food when you're in the presidential palace? Do you get it delivered to you from on-demand services? Do you know what he said to me? Show me how we need to do this. I said, speak to Plamen Rusev. He's the master of delivering food for the brain and food for the stomach. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we have a fantastic guest that we're going to be bringing onto the stage now. This is somebody that I'm so glad you can meet, because when you talk about entrepreneurs and people that really know how to take an idea that sounds so crazy and then develops it into a multi-million-dollar business very successfully, I'd like to introduce to you the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Handy, Mr. Oisin Hanrahan. Oisin, give him a big hand.
Here. Thank you so much. That was a very energetic intro. It was the fire that got you going, wasn't it?
Exactly, that's what you've got to do. So, Oisin, just first of all, this is your first time in Bulgaria?
So I was in Bulgaria a very long time ago with my then girlfriend and now wife. I was in Varna by the water, and I was trying to figure it out. I think it was 13 years ago. So I'm old at this point.
You definitely are very, very old.
Yeah,
But-
it's happening. Aging is happening.
But the point is this, you're in the new Bulgaria, where Bulgaria really has its eye on the future. And just to give a little bit of background to Oisin, and so that you can understand just what he's done, when he was 19, he leaves Trinity College in Dublin, great university in Dublin, and decides to move to Budapest in Hungary because he wants to buy property and renovate property.
Yep.
And you have difficulty finding builders, carpenters, people that can do things in a good and reliable, cost-effective way, and that gives you the first idea to start Handy. Is that correct?
So what I realized in Hungary, in Budapest, was it's incredibly easy to get a lot of people interested in renovating a whole apartment or building a whole apartment complex.
Right.
Because it's a big job. Everybody wants it. It's, tens of thousands of dollars or euro.
Right.
Nobody wants to come back and fix an outlet or fix a socket or put in a, fix a cracked window or clean an apartment. It's really hard to get people to do the smaller tasks. And that was the genesis of Handy. It was that realization that the scheduling, the transaction cost, the organizing, that's the hard bit. The actual doing of the work, it's almost easy versus how hard it is to schedule these small tasks. And that was the original genesis of Handy.
So from Hungary, you go to Harvard Business School, you meet your partner, Umang Dua, and you decide to start Handy. And just to try and give the audience some sense of the difficulty of this, when you're looking for house cleaning, you're looking for a whole range of services that can be pre-screened, top quality, and professionals in cities around the world, providing a whole range of different services, moving in cleaning, move out cleaning, deep cleaning, even fixing up the smart home. How did you get down to those roots so that you can then develop a business out of that?
Yeah. So we started Handy 7 years ago last week.
Right.
To change how people buy services.
Right.
And the idea was that whenever you go out and look for somebody, you're going through this incredible pain of trying to find someone you can trust, trying to find someone who will work at a time that's going to work for you, so the scheduling challenge, someone who's reliable, someone who's going to work at a price that works for you, and someone who's actually just going to show up and do a great job.
Right.
And then when they do show up, they might only accept cash or check or credit card or whatever it might be. And then there's this thing in the back of your mind, what happens if something goes wrong? What happens if somebody shows up to do work in your home and something actually just goes wrong?
This is very similar to the thinking that Brian Chesky used when he started Airbnb, thinking along similar lines, but you're in the on-demand space where people call in, within 60 seconds you've got to provide it. How did you construct that, number one? And secondly, for us to talk about on-demand, Amazon prides itself on being able to deliver in major cities within maybe half an hour, and certainly in Manhattan. But just give us a sense about this on-demand thinking and how you decided to service it.
So I think that there's this incredible challenge that we've got right now in terms of what we mean by on-demand.
Right. What does it mean?
And I think what we're really building is convenience and flexibility. So for customers
reliability.
And reliability. I think that's there's a pin under everything, which is you've got to have trust and reliability.
Right.
I think what we're really building for customers is incredible convenience. And Amazon, you're right, has come out and publicly said they wanted to build or want to build the most customer-centric company in the world. And they've got this incredible, almost unfair access to capital to go and do it. And that makes it really hard. So what we did at Handy was we took a relatively narrow section of the economy. So, the whole economy is obviously enormous. We took home services, which is a $400 billion category.
$400 billion?
Yeah,
is that in America or globally?
That's in the U.S. So
wow.
$400 billion in the U.S. and growing faster than the GDP of the country. So growing pretty quickly. And we said, let's just take the section that's relevant for what we think about as fixed price tasks. So the things that you can book instantly. So things where we could say, hey, what is it? What do we need from the customer to be able to price this? So we started with cleaning services and what we thought about as light handyman services. And we said, let's try and make it as easy to buy services as it is to buy product. So it's that idea that we can ask you a couple of questions, we can price it, we can guarantee the quality, and we can allow you to check out in 60 seconds. And that was what convenience meant to the customer. The other part of OnDemand is flexibility. So for the providers on the platform, for the wonderful people that work on Handy or on many of the other platforms that we call OnDemand, what they're looking for is the ultimate in flexibility. They don't want to give a schedule. They don't want to give a commitment to work a number of hours. They want to be able to drop in and drop out. They want to be able to work when it works for them because typically they're working alongside another job or they're fitting it into family life. So the vast majority of the people that work on Handy are actually women, and they're the primary caregiver in their homes, and they're slotting this around taking care of their family, whether it's kids or whether it's elderly parents. They're figuring out how to make the on-demand sector or the flexible economy work for them because it fits around the rest of their life.
Right. So when we think of on-demand, this category is so important. Some of the big successes, or those that have made an impact on a global basis, Uber, on-demand transportation, although their share price has not been doing well on Wall Street the last 48 hours. Amazon, obviously, on-demand. Food delivery, obviously now a very important category. Just in terms of on-demand, you are doing home services or Handy specialized in that. So here are a couple of questions. Are you seeing changing consumer preferences because of companies like Uber, Amazon, yourselves, where people now expect that on-demand is quick, reliable, trustworthy, and cost-effective?
Look, I think the bar has changed in terms of consumer expectation. I think what was acceptable a decade ago isn't acceptable anymore. And I mean that across every dimension of the experience. I mean it across price. I mean it across the ability to instantly transact. I mean it across the customer service experience. I mean it across the delivery itself. The duration that people have a willingness to be frustrated has hit near zero.
Is that because everyone is so challenged with the time drought? No time to do all of this stuff?
I think it's because the currency of consumers has changed.
How?
And I think it's become experiences. If you look at what people talk about, largely people, if you look on social, people aren't bragging, boasting, sharing the things they've bought. They're not talking about what they have anymore. They're talking about what they're doing with them. They're talking about the experiences that they're having. They're talking about what they're going to, where they're staying.
GoPro would be a good example of that.
It would be a good example, yeah, of a product that people are using to share their experiences. And that translation from what we have to what we're doing is translating not just to the things we're going to do, but actually the experience of buying itself.
Right.
And if you think about people buying product, there was this thing that, the goal of a retailer was to sell product out the door. Then it was, okay, well, we actually have a return window. We have to sell it past the end of the return window. It's now to sell the product directly into the customer's life. So you actually have to get the product out the door, past the return window, and happily into that customer's life, because otherwise they're going to complain on social. They're not going to share virally. They're not going to actually use the product in a way that makes sense. And it's one of the things we've worked on recently with Handy. We've actually married product and service together. So today you can go to many online retailers and actually buy product that needs installation or needs assembly, and the installation is provided by Handy because the retailer really wants to sell the product into your life.
And so the retailer has trust in Handy, the consumer has trust in Handy as the interface. So really you're providing an incredible link between the core product and the delivery and the satisfaction level. And when trust's so important, the Edelman Media Group in New York and their trust barometer, very important way of measuring things. Here's the next question I wanted to ask you was, in terms of flexible work, just finding the people to do these things, and also the way that you're able to get increased wages to people that are doing this kind of work. Just give us a sense of how you see the development of the on-demand world, and which companies or products do you respect in this on-demand space?
Look, I think if you think about what we've built, right? Does anyone know the Jetsons? Hands up if you know what the Jetsons are. Yeah, I've got some hands up in the air. We've basically built the Jetsons over the last 2 decades.
For people who don't know what the Jetsons are, just very quickly, what are the Jetsons?
The Jetsons are an amazing push-button world where you can essentially have whatever you want at the touch of a button. And what that means is that work has changed.
Right.
And the motivation for work is changing very, very quickly. It was raw economics. So people were working to take care of themselves, to take care of their families.
Right.
Then it shifted to economics plus a better sense of meaning. So what was the purpose? What was your contribution? What did it mean to you or your society? The third leg of that has now become flexibility. So it's economics, it's meaning, and it's flexibility. And the balance that on-demand or that gig sector economies or just that a new way of work has brought to those three things has changed in favor of flexibility as we use more and more technology to engage with platforms, our customers, or our employers. And I think that's a really positive thing overall. Of course, there are risks involved. Of course, it means we got to be really thoughtful about how much we pay, how much these platforms are taking care of contractors, what it means for the social contract, what it means for the social safety net. There's all sorts of really important implications, but the broad theme of the balance of economics, meaning, and flexibility is a really positive shift for the workforce.
And so in terms of looking at that shift, the whole notion of on-demand also relates to the people that are doing the work, because it's a way that they can earn a living in the gig economy, as it sometimes is referred to. But also, more importantly, this meets some of the changing patterns of what consumers want, particularly in large cities, right?
Yeah, I think consumers are thinking about what they want differently, and they're thinking about how to allocate spend differently. They're thinking about what they really need to buy, and there's this obviously concept of what you're buying as a service, and the notion of rent isn't an old one, but the notion of how consumers are going to take care of assets that they buy is a really interesting shift. So how they're going to approach home ownership perhaps will be different in the future. How they'll think about taking care of those homes, how they'll think about, where they allocate spend is really going to change how consumers are interacting with the economy, interacting with their society, interacting with their neighborhood. And I think it's a really interesting time to watch how technology is changing community.
So in terms of changing, it also means that the way that people can get goods is changing. I mean, the whole delivery of food, it's not just a pizza delivery anymore. You can get, there's a very successful company in the UK called Deliveroo, which got funded by some of the same people that funded some of the biggest companies in the world. But this whole notion of on-demand, today, in today's world where people have a famine, not the enough time, on-demand, there's no other alternative, really. That's what people want.
I think people want convenience. People want the ability to buy at the touch of a button, and they want to have a great experience. Whether it's taking care of their home, whether it's buying food, whether it's transportation, there really is this shift towards people saying experience over everything else. And that means that the companies that are successful are going to prioritize the customer experience. They're going to think about every tiny part of the journey. So at Handy, we think about every part from when the customer first hears about us to when they come to the site, or they download the mobile app, or they make a purchase, or they visit us on our partner sites, whether it's on Wayfair, or whether they go into a Walmart store, or whether they go to eBay. We think about all the different points of the Handy journey and how to make those consistent so that whenever you engage with us, you know that Handy stands for a great experience. You know that we're going to deliver on the promise of trust. And we know that when something goes wrong, because it's a very challenging category, that Handy's going to stand behind you and make it right. And I think great brands are figuring out how to make those moments more special than ever before.
That little bell tells us that our demand has run out, but we'd just like to say what you've created with OnDemand, you've really created a world first and something that makes people's lives easier and something that ties in absolutely with the very ethos of Webit 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a very warm round of applause to Oisin Hanrahan. Great to hear about OnDemand. Oisin,
thank you
welcome.
so much. Thank you.
My name is Ralph Simon, and we hope you have a great day today. Make sure your brain is taking everything in, because over the next few days, when you think about what you've seen here at Webit, you can start a business like Oisin, which he sold, made a lot of money, and you guys could be successful the world over. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you.